Hello, hello. Oh dear, we got an echo already. How's that? This is a preview. Inside Benny's Brain is coming up, so stay tuned for that. That is a segment that is coming up. So, hello, and thank you so much for joining us. We are Smart Elections, and this is the Smart Elections Election Protection Forum. And tonight we have a special program that is focused on the ExpressVote XL. That is a voting machine that is in the process of it is seeking approval for use in the state of New York. It is not approved yet, and we are fighting it very hard. We think that is not a good fit for New York, and tonight we're going to talk to you about why we think that and take any questions that you have. So thank you so much for being with us, and we will get started. We usually start by just doing some visual descriptions. That's for those who might have visual impairments. So I'll introduce myself. I'm Lulu Friesdat. I am the co-founder and executive director of Smart Elections, and my partner here in crime.
I'm Bennie Smith, the Tennessee State Election Commissioner, black male wearing a blue and white checkered shirt, and I'm sitting in front of a bunch of screens.
Okay, and I should clarify that when I say my partner in crime, we are just joking. We are completely legit. We are not engaged in
We're the good guys.
anything illegitimate. That's just a joke, trying to be clear. We are nonpartisan. We try to really focus on fair, secure, accessible, well-administered, and publicly verifiable elections. Those are our priorities. And I will go ahead and give my visual description. I am a pale woman in tonight a flowered blouse, and I'm on an old headset with a kind of old-fashioned mic like that wraps around your head like the telemarketers used to wear. My regular headset is out of commission, and I'm in front of a brick wall, and you can see an Emmy Award in the background. So those are our descriptions. If you want closed captioning, the best bet is on the Facebook feed where you can find closed captioning. And the one thing that we did promise last forum is that we would start with a little bit of the TEDx talk that I did. So I think we will go ahead and play just like a 2-minute clip of this. This is a talk that I gave in South Carolina in April, and it actually just recently went online. And I really talk about voting reforms from a nonpartisan, transpartisan, bipartisan perspective. Like, how can we all try to find common ground on elections? So I think I have that queued up and ready to go. It's just going to come in a section that's actually pretty far into the talk, but this is a part where I really focus kind of on trying to overcome people's partisan biases. So I think it's maybe fun for us to watch. So it was kind of it was a fun experience to do a TEDx talk, and I'm really happy to share it with you, and I hope that you'll watch the whole thing. So are you seeing that? Yeah, okay, we are up. Here we go.
So, in the midst of extreme political polarization on an uneven playing field, how do we increase both transparency and inclusion and get to fair elections? Let's do another thought experiment. We'll attempt to relax political polarization. I'm going to list problems with our elections. Some are conservative talking points, some are progressive.
This is a camera lucida.
Oh,
and for the whole of the night to
my
ensure
God. Ads.
great masters
Can we
and
skip
technical
it?
illustrators.
Sorry about that.
Ain't this some?
Whatever team you normally side with in this experiment, identify and empathize with the other side. Fun, right? If you don't usually pay attention to this stuff, or you're an independent, or you're not old enough to vote, just pick a team. You know which side you lean. Got it? Okay, here we go. Starting with the Democrats, try to positively identify with these statements. Everything I'm saying is true. Voting machines. Voting machines are not perfect. They're not transparent. Voting machines are computers, and only the people who program them know how they count votes. Voting machines have been documented counting races incorrectly in Georgia, Michigan, New Hampshire, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. Democrats? How was that? Okay. Great. Republicans, your turn. Try to positively identify with these statements. Everything I'm saying is true. Voter suppression is alive and well in US elections. In 2020, some voters in Georgia stood in line for 10 hours to vote. Research from MIT shows that voters of color on average wait twice as long as other voters. Overly strict voter ID laws and decreasing the days and times that polls are open have the effect of decreasing the number of people who get to vote. And many people believe these are intentional techniques to keep people of color from voting.
So that's a little snippet of the TEDx talk that I did. And this is the link if you want to go ahead and watch the whole thing. I hope that you will, and I hope that you'll share it. And any comments on that? Benny, you want to comment on that at all?
I really liked it. I tell you, when I think I call you or either I text you and I tell you it's a really informative talk. The way you pitted the teams and you basically removed the bias to show the bias, and it was a really nice technique to show people. When you hear your team say it, it doesn't sound so bad, but it's the same thing that both teams are saying.
Right. I think that both teams have legitimate complaints about problems with our elections. And rather than, I think what most of the kind of partisan nastiness is about is trying to ignore the other side's complaints and just focus on your side's complaints as though those are the only complaints that are legitimate, instead of saying, hey, I do acknowledge that that is a problem. I am interested in working on that. Are you now interested in working on my complaints and trying, to turn into a give instead of a fight? I think part of
Mhm.
the just the life blood of the political parties is to denigrate the other party and the other party's belief system as fully as possible. And I know that's, you're always saying, Benny, politics is a blood sport, and the goal basically is the kill, but it's not helping our democracy, and in particular in elections. I think elections is one area where it would be exceptionally helpful to try to put some of that divisiveness aside and see where we could find common ground. So that's really kind of the um the focus of the talk, and really talking about how to do that, how practically can we get to that place where we could work on really solving some of these problems. So um, that is the little preview on the TEDx talk. And as I said, I do hope that y'all watch the whole thing and share it. And so we're going to go into the ExpressVote XL portion of our talk now. And I want to just take a moment and kind of give an overview. We're specifically talking about the ExpressVote XL, and we're specifically talking about this as it relates to New York. It's the approval process in New York. So I'm going to go ahead and just, people may not even be, some people are totally familiar with this and some people aren't. They might be like, what's an ExpressVote XL? Is that an espresso machine? Does it make coffee? It's a voting machine. And it's a voting machine made by a company called ES&S. And ES&S makes quite a few voting machines, and they're in use all over the country. They are actually the largest manufacturer of voting machines. I believe that they have around 60% of the market, and I think that Dominion has a somewhat smaller share. I'm sure it may be changing a little bit between ES&S and Dominion, who's their main competitor. I know more than they have wrapped up more than 80% of the market. And then there are some smaller vendors, Heart, InterCivic, um, Clear Ballot, and Democracy Live are the other three that are trying to get approval here in New York State. And we are actually supporting the other three vendors, the Heart, it's called Heart InterCivic, the Democracy Live, and the Clear Ballot. All of those we think would be really helpful here. It is the ExpressVote XL in particular that we're focused on, and we want to show you, how it works and what, some good things are about it, and why we have such serious reservations about its use in New York. And then I just do want to make you aware also. So ES&S makes another voting machine, and that voting machine is called the Express Vote. that's missing the XL. So the ExpressVote is kind of like a miniature version of the ExpressVote XL, just how you might think. And it is not applying for approval here in New York. It is in use in many, many parts of the country. It is very commonly used voting machine, and it has many of the same problems that the ExpressVote XL has, but they are technically two different voting machines. And I'll show you some pictures of both of them. I think I have pictures of both of them. Benny, anything? We're again congratulating Benny on his promotion. He's now a Tennessee State Election Commissioner, as opposed to previously where he's Shelby County Election Commissioner. Do you want to tell us anything about what's going on in Memphis before we start rolling here?
Yeah, we just had our quarterly meeting, and the funny thing is, we're on the express vote. We in Tennessee use the express vote. Here in Shelby County, we have about 1,500 express votes without the XL non-tabulating. But the ES&S was the vendor that was before our body for certification, and they weren't. We don't use this express vote XL in Tennessee at all, and we don't use non-tabulating express votes, but we do use the express vote ballot marking device. And they went up for certification. One of the things, I asked a lot of questions of the vendors, and I ultimately voted no. I didn't vote to certify the machines. It did pass, but I didn't vote on the election security more than I did on the price and knowledge of what the jurisdictions would have to pay for. And one of the questions I asked I guess this guy wasn't a salesperson. He was just a regular person that was describing the certification process. And I asked him about the Professor Appel would always say that the printer could pass the paper can pass back through the print head, and he assured me that it can't because the printer head was raised.
Because
And
why? Wait, because why?
he said the printer head was raised.
Was what?
Now, was raised. It
Was
basically
raised.
the printer head is raised and it cannot lower itself.
Right, but that's
So
controlled by software. So if
hang
a
on, hang
hacker's
on. I'm gonna give a shout out to ES&S. This is a really weird one.
okay.
So he misspoke. He did say it, but I did take him to task, and I looked at when you're an election official, they give you all of this technical documentation. So I went and I looked at what it was describing, but there's basically a gear. It's a pulley system, and it can only go one way. So when the vote passes down, the only way it can travel is down. So it would not be possible to print again if you lowered the the um, the print head back on top of the device. And they have a video. I guess I'll put it in the chat for you.
Yeah, let's
It
look at
did
that.
not get rid of my concerns because I was never really concerned with stamping the card as much as what is below the barcode.
Okay,
So
so I think we've confused people by now because we're sort of starting in the middle of the story, but I just want to put it in context. So this is a machine, it's called the ExpressVote. It's a smaller version of the ExpressVote XL, and they are using it in Tennessee where Benny is an
no,
election
no,
commissioner.
this is specific to the XL. I asked the question to this guy about the XL. We don't
No,
even use it, but I still asked him the question about the XL.
no, because I know that Professor Appel has said that the print head problem is in the ExpressVote and the ExpressVote XL both.
It could potentially be, but he told me that they corrected the problem, and I'm only focusing on the XL portion of that because that was the question, and that was his answer, and they do back it up with some information to explain how you cannot print twice
Okay,
on the XL.
that's very interesting. So let's get into that. That's a
Yeah,
little teaser for you just to confuse you.
yeah.
And just before this is just to kind of put things in context before we dive into the ExpressVote XL, there is
Mhm.
a smaller version of the ExpressVote XL called the ExpressVote, and it is in use around the country, usually as a ballot marking device, sometimes for use for all voters. And it does have a similar ballot. You see that ballot on the side. It's not actually even a ballot, it's called a summary card. And I'm going to show you more about that. So the first thing I want to do is just play you a video of the ExpressVote XL and at the demo, and you can just get a sense of how it works. And this is a actually charming salesman and technician that they have named Matt. just going to take it back a little bit.
Okay, so you're putting the ballot in?
So the voter first gets to choose their selection of their language. I'm going to choose English. I'm going to choose Start Voting. And it brings up the ballot. It's a full-face ballot. I can choose my candidates however I'd like to. If I want to do a write-in, I can choose write-in. I can write in the name. Put my name in. And this is a vote for two, so I can choose two candidates. Choose one. The nice thing is, it doesn't allow me to overvote. If, for instance, it's a vote for multi-vote for, if I try doing too many selections, it gives them a warning saying they can't do that. They have to unselect one and reselect another one. So I can unselect and reselect. I'm also allowed to undervote if I want to as well. I'm actually not going to change my write-in, but I'm going to unchange Mr. Buck. Down here below, my questions. Yes, no. I have the ability to make it full text too, so it's larger on the screen as well if you want to.
Can you walk me through that? I think that's really a cool feature that it has, actually.
Yeah, so like some jurisdictions have requirements where they don't have to put all of the writing on it, you know? They can if they want to, but if they don't want to, they can just put the abbreviated version of it, then put the full text on there too, and it'll bring everything up. So all that's configurable with how the county chooses to code it, which will be based off of how the State Board of Elections requires them to do it.
And then there was another feature where you can make the text really big.
Yeah, so if I change the text size, I can change it to large text. So if I go to large text and I return my ballot, it makes it very large. And it's contest by contest at that point.
And then the contrast.
Yeah, I can change the contrast. If I choose contrast, I can choose black and white. Because some voters, right, they can't see colors very well, they can't differentiate that. So changing the contrast allows them to do that.
And there's like a black and yellow option also?
Just black and white.
Just black and white.
Yep, just
okay.
black and white, yep. Language, if I chose the wrong language, I can always change my language mid-vote session as well too if I want to. I'm going to go ahead and change back to normal text size. At this point, I'm going to leave this contest undervoted as well, because I'm allowed to undervote if I want to, right? I don't have to vote for every single candidate if I don't want to.
Now, what about if I want to hear audio? Say I have I need audio assistance.
So there is a ADA keypad that is plugged into the machine.
Okay, so let me see if I got it. There's Braille.
Yep, so Braille all along here. So underneath the buttons is Braille.
And then there's an audio jack.
Yep, right down here.
And what's the other jack?
This is for a sip and puff device or a rocker paddle.
Cool. And then you can use this, obviously, like a regular sort of joystick.
Correct, yeah. So if I want to, I can navigate through the ballot if I want to.
Can I plug my audio set into
Of course,
this?
yeah.
Okay.
Right here.
Okay, I just said U.S. House of Representatives.
Yeah.
District 1. Can we make it loud, or it only goes through headset, right?
Yeah, so you can turn the volume up on it if you want to.
Oh yeah, the volume's going up. Yeah, that's good for me. Not too much louder.
Yep.
Okay.
And you can speed and lower the tempo as well too.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So, and all of the audio prompts, functions, everything, very customizable by the county. Any prompt that you see on the screen, any audio that it says, they can change that based off of what they need it to be.
So it just said State Senator, District 34, vote for 1.
Yep.
There are 3 choices. First choice, salutation.
Now I'm going to print my ballot. I'm going to print it.
Okay, now it says you can't change your selections once you print the ballot.
Correct.
Once you print, you're done. That's it.
Well, not necessarily, right? So it is just like normal ballot, right? So if you fill in your ovals onto your ballot, right, you have to go spoil that ballot and get a new one. So same thing, your ballot is now printed here.
Okay, let's take a look at that.
Yep.
So now one thing that bothers me is that it's a little bit hard to read behind the glass.
If you don't choose enough candidates to have the barcodes go all the way across, we now print X's to where a barcode placement could be, so nothing can be added there. Also, it prints in the language you voted. So if if you're an English voter, prints in English, and then the second language is a randomized second language.
Do you know about the software, the operating system that this is running on? Before, it was running on an earlier version of Windows, I believe.
So the new one that's being submitted for certification is Windows 10.
It's on Windows 10. Before, it was on Windows 7.
7,
right?
correct,
Okay,
yes.
so now this is on Windows 10.
Correct.
In what way is it secure? Is there a lock on the ballot box, or how is it secured?
It's locked in there.
Where are the locks?
On the side right here. So there's a lever in there that is locked on. So you have to have a key, a secure key to get in there.
How about the USB ports? Where are the USB ports?
They're up here. There's one. So there's this right here. There's a USB.
That's the USB stick.
Yep. There's
So
a
that's where
power
the-
button. So
Okay.
this is where they're in. They can get sealed in here. And as you can see on the screen, anytime this access compartment's open, the machine is unusable.
And it's giving us a big alert that it's been opened.
And a light is flashing too that would be facing coworkers. So they'll know.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so it's also beeping really loud. It's a loud room right now, so you can't hear it. But so if you're across the room, you're gonna see that flashing. I'm gonna put a ballot in that's already been printed, right? It sees that I've already chose it. So I can put that ballot in any machine in that location that is the same data, right? And so I could take this ballot and I could verify it on a separate machine if I wanted to as well.
Okay, so that's a pretty good overview of the machine. I think from that, Benny, you get a kind of sense of how it works.
Yeah, no.
Okay,
Yeah.
gave you a pretty good idea. And then there's, there's good features, and then there's things that, as I said, we are really, really seriously concerned about. So I'll say, just to start positive, I'm a type of person who always likes to start positive. Things I really like that feature that they have now, where when the USB compartment opens, there's a huge red circle on the screen that says the media compartment is open, and there's a big flashing light. That I think is very clever, because obviously you don't want that USB port opening, say when the voters are in there, for fear that a voter could, put a USB drive in there and program it in some way. So I think that's pretty clever. But there's things that I'm very concerned about. For example, I actually said it was how you saw how hard it is to see that ballot. I said it was behind glass. It's actually behind plastic. We found out it's polycarbonate plastic. And I think I have a still photo of that. Thought I had that pulled up here so we can talk about that. It's just very hard to see that, let me just find that. Here's a wide shot. I have a wide shot so you can kind of see what the machine looks like in a wide shot. So this was at another demo. This was actually in 2020 in Albany, and you can see there's a voter in a wheelchair and how kind of convenient that height is for her, and you can kind of get a sense of how that could be comfortable for a voter with a disability. So I think it does have some advantages for voters with disabilities. But then we have this comment here from the chat. Couldn't New Yorkers who have special voting needs have a few specific places they could go anytime within the early voting period to do so? Why would these $10,000 each machines be forced on all New Yorkers? So that kind of leads us to our other answer, or one of like the main problems with this machine, is that that ballot does look completely different from a hand marked paper ballot. You saw with the barcodes across the top, and it's very slim. So New York actually has a statute. It's 7-104 number 26, and it says that all ballots in a polling place have to look identical. That's the language. And so this ballot, it doesn't look identical to a hand marked paper ballot. So anytime that this voting machine is in use in any polling place, then the hand marked paper ballot would not be offered. And the problem is that you would likely have this in every polling place, because we have to have a machine for voters with disabilities in every polling place, in early voting and election day voting, in all in-person voting. And therefore, if we chose the ExpressVote XL as our accessibility system, it would be in all polling places, and it would then eliminate what we've been using, which is hand-marked paper ballots in all polling places. And we would then be using it for all voters. And then one of the there's a number of disadvantages when you start using a ballot marking device for all voters. And one of the keys does get into the cost factor. So I believe that um, I have an estimate here from OSIT, which is a research institute, and they talk about how many more ballot marking devices you have to use if all voters are going to vote on them. And what that means literally is what it sounds like. You go to the polling place and there is no pen and paper the way we've had here for 10 years in New York. All you would have would be these ballot marking devices. And they estimate that you have to buy almost 6 times as many ballot marking devices in order to have enough for all voters. So this is some of the research from the OSIT paper on this. This was a research paper that they did when Georgia was going through this decision, and they were trying to decide whether they were going to use pen and paper or ballot marking devices for all voters. And keep in mind that when we say pen and paper, there is always a ballot marking device available for voters with disabilities or anybody who chooses to use them. That is the law across the country. That is part of what's called the ADA and HAVA. I think HAVA in particular was the 2002 federal legislation that required that every polling place for in-person voting has to have an accessible voting machine. It's just a question of whether everyone votes on that machine or whether only voters who choose to vote on it are going to vote on it. So here you can look at these numbers. So if you have what they call ADA only, that means ADA is the American Disabilities Act. So ADA only based on Georgia Secretary of State quantities. That means you only need ballot marking devices for voters who choose to use them or who need them for disabilities. The estimate there was that you would need 4,730. But if you go to a system that we would have to have here in New York, if we went to the ExpressVote XL, where everybody would be voting on that system, now they're estimating you have to buy 27,000 ballot marking devices. That's what BMD's based on Georgia State Commission estimate. So from 5,000 to 27,000, you see there that's more than 5 times as many ballot marking devices. And the person who put that into the chat is correct. These ExpressVote XL are estimated at $10,000 per machine, and that was from a New York Times article that featured me, actually. But that was one piece of information that came out of that article was they did put the price in there. So yeah, and Julie Weiner is adding here, by statute, every polling place has to provide accessible ballot marking devices, and that's absolutely correct. So here you have one factor in why we think the ExpressVote XL is a very bad fit for New York, and it's because we have this statute that requires all the ballots to be identical. So it's not a question of can we have both this and pen and paper. Right now with the statute, we would only get the ExpressVote XL in any county that chose to purchase it, and that would be another step. But right now we're at the approval process at the State Board of Elections, and we are trying to stop the state from approving these voting machines because we don't want a situation where we all have to vote on this voting machine. And as we get into more reasons why we don't want that, I'm also going to just give you some tools that you can use if you want to join us and try to fight this this approval process. We have developed some tools, and one of them is a letter that you can send to the State Board of Elections, and I'm going to put that link into the chat. And I bet by now we've probably sent 2,000 of these. I'll go ahead and pull it up so you can take a look. And this is a detailed letter that has a lot of different reasons for the State Board of Elections about why we think the ExpressVote XL is bad for New York, and we call it a one-click letter because it's really easy to send. It just takes about 2 minutes. It's a one-click letter against the ExpressVote XL.
Yeah, Lulu, I had a comment though. I was trying to do the same thing when I was like, ES&S is listening. I will give them that. They are listening. they didn't hear. We said over and over, look, the printer can pass through twice, and they did something to mitigate it. You can get to the USB port really easy, and they did something about it. And ultimately, like I don't want to, because it sometimes we beat up on a vendor so much. And I said this in my vote no to ESNS. Like this, I'm not picking on the vendor. They do some they do some really good stuff, but you have to do that really good stuff in a price point that counties can afford. And that was ultimately, as an official of the state of Tennessee, I just could not see, like, the ExpressVote XL. It would have been no. I wouldn't even need to hear the presentation at $10,000. Like you're gonna pull up. I tell you what. Let me go into the polling place, and you sit 10 used cars in there, and let me sit in the back seat and fill out the paper ballot. Because that's basically what you're about to do. That's a used car, $10,000 just to mark a ballot. Like, just buy 10 used cars, set it in there, let 4 people get in the front seat, 4 people get in the back seat, and vote. Because
It's
that's technically what's happening. Just so they did fix the printer head. It was I sent it in our chat. You can post it. They fixed it. That was amazing. Well, if it works the way that they said, the video is very concise. It's explanatory. It does the job. It doesn't mitigate any of the concerns I had in the beginning.
okay.
Anyway,
So, but let's go topic by topic because we haven't really explained the printer problem, and now you're saying it's solved. So I think it's just
no,
confusing
but for
people.
$10,000, they heard us and fixed something that we complained about, and now the cost is so high that it doesn't matter that they fixed it because I would never pay for it.
The cost is exorbitant. And I looked back through pricing from 2014, which was less than 10 years ago. They were selling ballot marking devices for around $2,500.
25, yeah.
So it's a 500% increase. Granted, this is a ballot marking device and a scanner in one, but it's actually, so I was talking to one of their salespeople and she was saying like 2 for 1. It's more because you have two functions. And I was like saying, but I said, yes, but it's actually worse to have them combined because two people can't vote at the same time. If
But
I
that's
buy a
like a
ballot mark,
Oki Dada in the printer in FedEx and a 80-inch TV from Samsung. That the price. That's like you can print 1,000,000 pages on I think you could get an Okidata printer in a company for like $5,000
the
and
price,
a
yeah,
80-inch TV screen for another $3,000.
the other vendors seem to be able to provide this for much, much less. So we looked at the pricing from Democracy Live, which is one of the competitors, and that price point is around $4,500. So I think I actually have some of the do I have the Democracy Live
I know
price
you get
point
them
for you
making
here?
money. Like you got a product that everybody
Well,
wants, then
yeah, they are
make money.
clearly pricing it for profit. Because when you combine the fact that it's $10,000 per machine with the fact that you have to buy 5 to 6 times as many machines. So say right now you have one or two ballot marking devices and instead you have to buy um, that might be if you had two, now you have to buy 12 at $10,000 a machine. Now your costs for that polling location are $120,000, whereas previously you might have been around $30,000 per polling location with, say, 4 scanners and 2 ballot marking devices. So you have increased your cost per polling location by almost $100,000. And when you multiply that by New York City, which has 4.5 million voters, and New York City is actually seriously considering purchasing these ballot marking devices, you are talking about just astronomical costs. So that the cost is one reason. And I do have I can show you a price point from one of the other vendors. So this is a price point from Democracy Live. They have a ballot marking device called the Omni Ballot. And I think this is just a few months out of date, but you can see here this is going for $4,200 per unit. So it's really less than half the cost. And I talked to Brian Finney, their CEO, the other day, and I think he's saying that's more around $4,600 now, but still far, far less than the cost of the ExpressVote XL. So that's one factor. It's cost. Now let's move on. Let's talk about security because we have some very serious security concerns about the machine. And the first thing I do want to talk about is this thing that Bennie keeps mentioning about the the printer. And I think it's very confusing for people. We haven't really been bringing it up that much because it does really confuse people. But one of our members that we work with a lot, one of our advocates, Bob Stromberg, had actually made a diagram, and it's not a bad diagram. I think when I first saw it, I was like, I thought it was maybe a little bit too confusing, but I think it can help to understand the printer problem. So you saw the video where you're voting, and they give you that ballot, and it gets sucked into that little window, right? Everybody saw that little window. Now, here's what happens as we understand it. Um, no, I don't need the video file. This is just going to be a slide, basically. I need to present and share screen. Okay, so take a look at the colors on this, and the colors will hopefully help you. So you saw that window where the ballot went up under, that gets sort of sucked into the machine. The yellow is the first time it goes in, and this is Bob Stromberg studied this and made this schematic. It moves up and over the top. That's the yellow. And then after you vote, you make your selections, and then the ballot comes back. That's the green arrow. It goes back down and sits in that window. And that's where we showed you the ballot just sitting there, so you can see it behind the plastic, the polycarbonate plastic. And then after you press cast ballot and you're ready to cast your ballot, it goes back again. And that's the red arrow where you see it goes up and back into the ballot box. But as far as we understand, when it does that, it is going past the printer. The printer, you can see on his diagram, I'll blow that up a little bit. He says the printer is here. So that's the problem when the ballot goes past the printer. If the machine is under the control of malware, that printer could actually change your vote. It could actually change who you voted for on the paper ballot, and you would never know it because you never have another chance to review the ballot. Now, Benny, and this is something that security experts have actually been really upset about this function where the paper ballot goes under a print head after a voter casts it. Because if you change the paper ballot, you are in uncharted territory. Now the
Yeah.
paper ballot, which is absolutely the piece of gold that we rely on, the gold standard to check whether or not the voter's intent is accurate, to check if election results are accurate, are those paper ballots. And if the paper ballots themselves have been changed or potentially have been changed by a printer, then we're really at sea. We don't have a reliable audit, and we don't have confidence. So now, Benny, what is it that they have done that they told you?
Look at the private link chat. I sent it. It's on their site now, and they give a full diagram. And basically, they're saying that the wheel is not passing the way that the diagram. It'd be great. It'd be great if you looked at it.
Okay,
Because
can we
I think,
play it? It's only 2 minutes. Why don't we
yeah,
play it?
I think you should play it. Yeah.
Okay, let's take a look at it. And this
like,
is
we're
the
giving them a shout out. Like
okay.
if they heard us, if this is true, then it can't go back the third time.
Okay, this is the first time that I'm seeing this. So
It's really concise. I mean, it's really good. You know, I was talking to you when I voted no, and I went and did my homework after the guy told me that. I wanted to check him.
okay, audio. Let's see. This is called How ExpressVote XL Protects Your Ballot.
Election Systems and Software's purpose-built ExpressVote XL universal voting system maintains the highest physical and digital security controls that do not require additional steps to be enabled. Let's take a peek inside ExpressVote XL's new paper path to see how, by design, the voting machine's mechanical components are software independent, making it impossible to add, modify, or invalidate votes after the voter has reviewed, confirmed, and cast their ballot. After the voter inserts their paper ballot, transport rollers quickly move it along the paper path, passing the scanner and raised thermal print head. The ballot stops just below the print head, where it remains while the voter makes their selections. When the voter presses print, the ballot is positioned under the print head, and the print head lowers. A platen roller using a one-way bearing keeps the ballot held firmly against the print head to enable printing, and along with the motor and transport rollers, pulls the ballot through the printing and scanning process. When printing is complete, the print head is raised, and the ballot is moved to the review window where the voter independently verifies their selections. Then, the voter presses Cast Your Ballot. At that moment, the selections are recorded, and transport rollers move the ballot at high speed past the raised print head and drop it into the secure bin. ExpressVote XL is specifically designed and engineered with mechanized protections that prevent the machine from printing after the voters have verified and cast their ballot. The platen roller that forces the ballot up against the print head uses a one-way bearing, which means that when the print head is lowered, the one-way bearing can only drive the ballot in one direction. As a result, if the print head were lowered and in contact with the paper path after the voter cast their votes, and the ballot tried to pass back through, the motor drive would slip and the ballot movement would stop. The fact is, a voter's selections cannot be changed after they cast their ballot. By design, ExpressVote XL's mechanical components make it physically impossible to add, modify, or invalidate votes.
Okay.
So this is a correction to, like, if we're gonna sound these, these bells and whistles that these vendors should hear us, should also call out when they do. I think all the people who looked at this should check it to make sure. I mean, I'm not saying it's gospel. It just still didn't. If I'm doing something, I'm doing it under the barcode anyway, so it doesn't matter which way the ballot goes. So it doesn't rid me of the concerns that I have with it.
Okay, so let's talk about that and let's move into the next section. So the next section is going to be about barcodes, and I think that's a good transition here. So if you were going to now, what I will say is that if that's the case, and I would want to have some people that I trust, for example, J.
Yeah,
Alex Halderman or Professor
yeah,
Appel, take a look at that and see if they really feel that that mechanical gear could not be controlled by software
yeah,
and is a fail-safe to make sure that the ballot can't be printed on after the voter casts it. That would be one
yeah.
concern
One, yeah,
that would
that's
be
just
overcome.
one. That's
So
correct. That's
my
one
our
at a used car price.
okay,
Like,
but our main concern, I'm going to say my number one concern is that because the ballot still looks different from hand marked paper ballots,
mhm,
then it will eliminate hand marked paper ballots or pen and paper ballots in the any place that it's used. For example, in
right,
all of New York City, hand marked paper ballots, pen and paper ballots are the foundation of accuracy in elections. Security experts do not believe that elections that are run on all ballot marking devices can be confirmed by audits. And that is because it is the computer that generates the ballot. So you can never be 100% sure that the voter's intent was correctly captured by the computer. And therefore,
yeah,
what you're auditing, if you audit that ballot, is not the voter's intent. You are not going back and checking, did Bennie actually vote for Lulu? You
right,
will never know because you don't have a mark that Bennie made personally. All you know
right.
is that the computer generated a mark that indicated that Bennie wanted to vote
And
for
each
Lulu.
time it's a first generation copy. Like, it's a first generation. It's not somebody's copying it. It can produce it the first time the wrong way
I
or
don't
the
know what that
unintended way.
means, first generation copy.
Whenever, like, if I mark a ballot and you copy it, that's a second generation, right? You took my first one and you replaced it. Each time that this thing does it, it's in charge of the first time it happens. So that if it does it 10 times, that's 10 first time doing it, right? You can't, it's not a copy. The machine has the point of origin each time, and that's what makes the hand marked paper ballot so sacred, because that is intent and also the recording of the vote at the same time. But a machine can misinterpret, miscount, mismark. It can do that. And each time we don't know that the voter is gone. So the voter is
Right.
not there to say, I didn't do this. They are the first in the first generation.
Right.
But the
So if you
computer has taken their place. So each time it does it is as if it's the first time being done. It's the first generation. It's not real.
Well, what we know is that when you're doing that audit, as you said, the voter
Mhm.
is not there. Your Benny
Mm,
are not in the room to say, oh, yeah,
yeah,
that's my ballot. You could never
yeah,
identify it anyway. The ballot is
yeah.
anonymous at this point. You are never going to be able to go back and connect with the voter and say, is this actual voter intent? All you have is computer intent. And that is why security experts say that all ballot marking device elections cannot be confirmed by audits. So that is really our number one concern about the approval of the ExpressVote XL, is because the way it is designed, it will eliminate ballots that are more accurate and that computer and auditing experts say are really required in order to have confidence that the votes are
Something that's
what.
authenticatable, you can't do.
Right. And so it's not that we don't want a ballot marking device to be available. We want
Mm.
a ballot marking device. It has to be available in every polling place, but not a ballot marking device that eliminates hand marked paper ballots. And there are plenty of other ballot marking devices. For example, the Democracy Live system that I showed you that was at a price point of 4,200 a few months ago. That ballot marking device prints a ballot that looks identical to a hand marked paper ballot. And so it could be used with hand marked paper ballots in the same way that New York has been for the last 10 years, using both ballot marking devices and hand marked paper ballots. And I do want to just take a moment and talk about this argument that has come up from voters with disabilities. And they say that the when you have both voters voting with a pen and paper and voters on a ballot marking device, that it is replicating the separate but equal circumstance that you had in schools in the South, where children of color were educated in a completely different facility. And the Supreme Court ultimately ruled that separate was not equal, and you could not educate them separately because it wasn't an equal education. And we have seen disability advocates and even vendors using that phrase, that when you have people voting with pen and paper and you have people on a ballot marking device, it's separate and therefore it's not equal. And I am going to strongly, strongly disagree with that.
That's a
But
stretch.
there are a number of reasons why this is a completely fallacious argument. Now, one of them is that,
Like saying you can't get diesel, gas.
yes, okay,
No, you can, no.
one of the reasons is that you are not in a separate facility. The pen and paper voting and the ballot marking device are in the same facility, not separate at all.
These are methods.
Yeah. So you have people who are in the same facility. It is not a separate facility. And on top of that, even if everybody votes on the ballot marking device, you could see from the they call it an ATI, the audio tactile interface that we showed you, that there are many ways to vote even with that. One person might listen to the audio, one person might use the braille, one person
Yeah,
might use
these
the
are
sip and
methods.
puff. So
These are
everybody
methods.
is still voting in a different way. Now, my question is, are we all going to vote with sip and puff? Do you know how to vote with sip and puff? You have like a little
It's not
straw, and
separate. It's
you
different.
wait, Benny, you inhale and you exhale to choose your votes. Are we all going to vote with sip and puff to make sure that we are all voting equally? No, we are not. So this idea that we cannot have pen and paper voting and ballot marking device voting because that's separate and not equal is
Yeah, that's like
ridiculous,
a
completely
kosher
ridiculous.
kitchen. It's like a kosher
Okay, so I
kitchen.
just wanted to make that
Yeah,
point very clearly
yeah,
before we
it's
move on and talk about barcodes. So, one of the real concerns about the ExpressVote XL is that it encodes the vote in a barcode. And again, we showed you that multiple times now. So you saw how the it's the barcode, and here I found my picture of that, so I'll pull that up again. Um, it is it's called a summary card, and the summary card is behind plastic, and it shows you your ballot. Now it's pretty. Are you seeing that now?
it's
Almost.
still
It's
on.
coming up there.
It's still
Okay, there you go. It is pretty hard to see your selections. I don't know if you can tell. They're kind of cut off a little bit on the right and the left. U.S. House of Representatives, sunny day. You can. And it's pretty
I'm seeing some
small.
Chinese
And
characters.
it's, well, the Chinese is, I understand that because it's in 2 languages, but this is a brand new machine and it's plastic, and I pretty much guarantee you that in 3 years, that plastic is gonna be totally scratched up.
Faded.
Sorta like the is the
Hazy like some tinted windows.
like the screen on your cell phone, and you are not really gonna be able to verify your votes. Now,
Smudged up.
New York requires legally that voters have to be able to verify their votes. So I believe, and many people believe, that after a few years, you really are not even going to be able to verify your votes, if you could even verify them in the beginning, because the print is quite small. There's no way to blow it up. You had that really nice feature where on the screen you can blow it up really big, but when you're actually verifying your vote, you can't
Yeah.
blow it up. It's
Yeah.
very
Too
small.
bad.
And then
Man.
here, the real kicker is that the machine encodes the vote in a barcode. So it is not this text down below that you are verifying that is being counted. It is these codes at the top. That is what I'm just trying to blow this up so you can really see this. That's what the machine is counting, those little lines. And there is no way. How do I know Benny's voting and we said he voted for me? How do you know that this little bit here in the middle, that's a vote for me? And I want to just show you how um how that can be changed. There's a um, there's an article from a voting machine advocate, Kevin Scogland, and he talks about how you can change those votes. So he shows you um, the different. This is an article, and I'll put this link into the chat here. How ExpressVote barcodes could be modified, and this is very concerning. So he shows you the code, and he talks about how you have each of these little bars, and then if you add uh, you still seeing that? Okay, great. If you add a little bit of a thickness, so you start out with this, with a little skinny and a little skinny and a fat, and then you turn that into 3 fat, you've turned that into a different person. Now, instead of Benny voting for me, he's voting for the opposition, for the candidate who's running against me. And he goes down and shows you meticulously how these barcodes could be modified to change the vote. And he actually has he has an even more a comprehensive article that goes through and talks about all the different ways. He has like sort of little exploits: the opportunity maker, the stowaway, the invalidator, the fixer, the substitute, the bottom feeder, different ways that he, as an expert, would go through and modify these ballots so that the vote count would be changed. Oh, I don't think, was it going through that when I can't tell if you're seeing what I'm seeing. No, it didn't. Let me just pull this article out into another browser, and then you'll be able to see it. Because so I showed you modify barcodes, and this is kind of like various scenarios, barcode modification. And I'm going to go ahead and put that link into the chat as well, so you can take a look at that. And we lost Benny. What happened to Benny? Benny must have lost his connection. See, technology. You can't always count on technology. You want that um, old school method available. I think this is the other article that I wanted to show you. So in this one, Kevin Scogland goes through and he shows like all these different ways that he could possibly potentially modify the ballot, and he calls them the different thing: the undervote thief, the opportunity maker, the stowaway, the invalidator, the fixer. Now, I'd have to go back to Kevin and ask him how much it matters that they've apparently addressed this issue of the printer not being able to print onto the ballot. That may be a game changer, but there are potentially other ways to manipulate that barcode. A barcode is programmable. I hear this over and over and over again from security experts. A barcode is programmable. It can be programmed to it can be programmed to do all kinds of things, and therefore it can be programmed to count a different way. One of the best examples of that, the easiest way for people to understand that is like, say I have a jug of detergent and I go and I buy it at the store on Tuesday, and on Tuesday it's on sale and the barcode rings up for $2.50. But on Wednesday I come and the sale is over and the same barcode rings up for $3. So the barcode hasn't changed, but they've programmed the machine differently. So on Wednesday it reads $3. That's the same programming that could change so that the barcode that initially is a vote for me all of a sudden is a vote for somebody else. So the fact that the machine encodes the vote in a barcode is extremely concerning. And on that issue alone, we believe that the machine should not be approved for use in New York. And there is absolutely, absolutely no need to encode votes in barcodes. All of the other manufacturers are either not doing that or moving away from it. So for example, Dominion is using a barcode, actually a QR code for their voting machines in Georgia. But when they came here to New York with the same machine, they eliminated the QR code and they're coming here with a ballot that looks like a hand-marked paper ballot and does not have a QR code, does not encode the vote in that QR code. And none of the other manufacturers are using barcodes or QR codes to encode the vote. There are some codes that help you establish ballot style, but they are not encoding the vote in a barcode. And in fact, leaders in election security like Colorado have actually banned the use of barcodes and QR codes in terms of encoding votes in that. So we actually think that the barcode alone is reason enough to reject the machine. It's hot here. I'm actually kind of sweating it up. So I know we got a bunch of comments here. I want to make sure that I give you all of the information that we have. I want to give you that video that we looked at that talks about the actual mechanism, that new video that Bennie showed me. So I'm going to get that into the chat. This is the ES&S video on their new protective mechanism. I put that into the chat so you have that. We're going to have a lot of more information up on our website at smartelections.us. And but I hope that this has been sort of a good primer. I think that we covered pretty much most of the main issues. We did not cover thermal paper. The ballot, that little sort of flimsy ballot that you see going up and down in that window, it is made of thermal paper. And looks like Bennie's back. Took a little vacation on me, Bennie. You're back now. You're on screen, just so you know.
I don't hear any audio.
I can hear you. You can't hear me? All right, I'm gonna let you sort it out and I'm gonna put you back on when you to say goodbye to everybody. So thermal paper is not considered reliable and in terms of lasting long enough for the 24-month retention period that the ballots are required to last for. There are other vendors who are using thermal paper. For example, Clear Ballot is using a thermal paper process, but I have to say the thermal paper that Clear Ballot is using is a much heavier stock and that ballot looks much more durable. I would have to see some tests of this thermal paper that ES&S is using before I would be convinced that it would last for 24 months. It looks extremely flimsy. And thermal printing also, we know, can just be wiped away when you have like hand sanitizer. So in a recount, something like that, that could wind up being extremely problematic. So the thermal paper is another issue that we are concerned about. I want to make sure I had pulled up the letter that we're asking people to send against the ExpressVote XL. And I'm pretty sure that I put that link into the chat and I'll put that in again. Please send a letter to the New York State Board of Elections. We've already sent over 2,000 of these letters just in the last 2 days alone. And we'll, I just want to show you that. The letter has a lot of these issues. So if you go ahead and go to that link and take a look at it and click through, where it says start writing, you put your name in and then you say start writing. You can see there that we sent over 2,000 letters, 2,072 letters. We just started Sunday. Our goal is to send at least 5,000 letters before they vote. So they're probably going to vote on Wednesday, next Wednesday, August 2nd. So please do tell as many people as you can. Just share that link with your family, your friends, your partner, your faith groups, your community groups, your neighborhood groups, your listservs, anywhere that you have contacts. Please make sure to just share that link and ask them to send this letter. It just takes 2 minutes. Anyone can send a letter. And we ask people even outside of New York to send a letter, because New York elections actually are extremely impactful. It was six congressional districts in New York that flipped from Democrat to Republican, that were one of the main reasons that the House of Representatives control went to Republicans in 2022. And that is going to be a very, very contentious race in 2024. And the eyes of the world may be looking at New York in terms of figuring out the balance of power in Congress. And we do not want to be there with a tight race, with a recount, watching votes disappear from hand sanitizer on thermal paper ballots. So I see Dale Axelrod put that into the chat. Thermal paper equals disappearing ink. So there are a number of reasons that are extremely serious why we believe that the ExpressVote XL is not a good fit for New York, is not ready for prime time, and we do not want it approved. And we hope that you will join us. All of the issues that we care about, most of them get decided at the ballot box. And it's so important that our votes are counted accurately, and that we have confidence in our elections. And we really feel that we just can't have full confidence with this voting machine in the condition that it's in currently, and especially in the way that it is eliminating the hand-marked paper ballot option here in New York. That really would be a tragedy. Most of the other states around the country are all moving in the opposite direction, from touchscreen voting machines to pen and paper voting, because it is considered more secure, more accurate, more affordable, and faster. I think the other thing that we really didn't get into is the wait times. So because everybody might have to vote on a touchscreen voting machine, even if you buy as many voting machines as they recommend, and keep in mind that most polling locations will not, because of that price tag. So probably we won't have enough voting machines. But even if they do, sometimes those machines break down. In general, what we've seen in states and jurisdictions where everybody votes on the ballot marking device, we have seen extremely, extremely long lines. And in fact, in Georgia in 2020, the lines were almost 10 hours to vote. So again, we don't want New York to become a voter suppression state. We want the type of lines that move rapidly and have a well-administered election. And moving to a massive voting machine that is going to require people to wait in line to use it is not going to help. We could have very long lines, and it could be extremely problematic. So I think we've covered most of the reasons there. Bennie, do you think you've got audio?
It's spotty, but I got audio now.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm using my
Okay.
phone's Wi-Fi because
You're always clever on the fly, fixing things.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we have some other people suggesting some stuff. Maybe a Twitter space you could do would help get the word out. That's a good idea. I've never done a Twitter space, but I've been looking at it. So maybe I'll try to do a Twitter space this week.
TED talking now. Might as well.
What?
TED talking as well.
You're coming in and out a little bit, Bennie. It's breaking up.
You're doing TED
Then we
Talks
just
now.
Right. Well, I don't mind doing a Twitter space. I just haven't done it before, but I think that's a good idea. And I'm also going to be going on some other social media platforms. I've been on TikTok lately, and I'm going to be going on Gab. So I'm going to be trying some new social media platforms. Please make sure that you get on our mailing list, and that way we'll be able to keep you posted if we do these various, if we do go into other spaces, or we have new developments that we want to tell you. So the best way to get on our mailing list is to go to smartelections.us. That's our website. And yeah, please do sign up there for the mailing list. And we also have meetings on Fridays at noon for people who are in New York to try to help us strategize, although anybody is welcome to come. And the link to the Friday meetings is also, you sign up there on the website, smartelections.us. It's actually scroll down its way at the bottom of the page. And make sure that when we are sending you emails that you're pulling them from your promotion tab into your inbox, your regular inbox. That way we won't be in your spam. If you want to send us a note, contact at smartelections.us. If you thought this was a useful forum, please go ahead and just throw a comment in the chat that said how useful it was, or that it was interesting, or that you learned something. That helps us to get other people to watch the forum and to join us. So please do give us any positive feedback in the chat. And also, if you have constructive criticism, we are always open to that. You can throw it into the chat as well. So let's just go through and see what else we've got going. I want to just make sure.
Lane, no, I didn't take a payout.
What?
Kelly texted me. She said, "Did you take a payout?"
Did I take a payout from who?
From ES&S.
What?
From ES&S.
We did not take. Oh, she's asking you, Benny, because you had that.
I was being nice.
We are not on anyone's payroll. We are
no, it's because I was being nice about ES&S.
We are not on anyone's
critical, but
payroll.
A ray of sunshine.
Okay, so I just want to go through. There's a few other things that we need to cover. We do welcome donations. If you're on the website at smartelections.us, just click on donate, and those donations are tax deductible. And you can also donate on PayPal. We actually really like it if you donate on PayPal, because we pay a smaller fee at the PayPal donation. And I'm going to go ahead and just put the PayPal link into the chat. That would be extremely helpful. That keeps our work going. And that kind of segues into the other piece of information that I want to give you, which is that this is going to be our last election protection forum for a while. We're going to be switching to a new format. It's called Fascinating Facts Webinars. And those are going to be paid webinars. They're going to be 2 hours long. So, because we're always trying to rush to get all of the information in. So it'll be mostly me teaching those, but I'll bring in experts as needed. And the first one that we're going to do is on August 10th. That's a Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern time. And it's a voting machine deep dive. So I'm going to be going over a variety of voting machines, kind of in the same way that I went over the ExpressVote XL tonight. And I'll be talking about the voting machines that we use across the country, which ones, have different features that are helpful, which ones security experts have concerns about. As much as I can, getting you informed and up to speed about best practices and answering any questions that you have. So I hope that you'll be joining on, that's on August 10th, 6 to 8 p.m. It's going to be $25. If you wait until the last, it's going to go up a little bit. 3 days beforehand, it'll be $30. And if you wait until the last day to sign up, it'll be $35. You can get a video and the transcript for $5 extra. So those are going to be starting in August 10th, the Fascinating Facts webinars. And then there's going to be one on August 31st, where I'm going to focus on Georgia voting machines. So I hope that you will join us for those. And those are a great way to support us, because we really do need your support. Kelly, great new format. Thank you. That's really nice of you. I think they're going to be really fascinating. I'm going to be forming a Facebook group or some other social media group to give people a chance to ask questions and get kind of more personal one-on-one information. So that's coming up. And again, make sure that you're on the waiting list, on the mailing list, so that you get information about that. So let me see what else is up here. Could you please post somewhere else all the links you posted here? Yes, I'm going to be trying to put up a whole page on our front page about the ExpressVote XL with all of this information in one place. So yes, we are going to be trying to do that. And I think, anything else, Benny, that you want to add?
No, I think that's it.
Okay, so we did go a few minutes over, but we are just trying to get you all the information that you need. Again, if you haven't set the letter yet, please do make sure to send that letter to the New York State Board of Elections, or if you want to write your own personal letter, that is fantastic. And That's really nice. Kate put up excellent forum, Lulu. We really appreciate that. And I'll put that letter in one more time. Send the letter. And if you want to write your own letter, individual letters are also really great. And we will have up on the website all of the email addresses that we hope that you will send it to. So those should be up by tomorrow for individual letters. And group letters are really great also. So if you're part of a group or a grassroots organization, you can write a letter and put your logo on it and send that. We have a template for that, and that'll be up on the website as well. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you so much. It's really been a pleasure doing these forums. I always enjoy them. I always enjoy all of the really great comments that people put up, and all of your just like the dedication of this community. It's a really inspirational, inspiring community. Don't you think, Bennie?
You want me to take us out?
Yeah, what's the website? The website is smartelections.us. I think we put it up several times. It's smartelections.us. I'm looking for that in our banners. Smartelections.us. There's our website. Stay in touch with us that way. Okay, Bennie, take us home.
All right. This is what democracy looks like.
See you soon. Thanks so much.
Night, everybody.